Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to chapter 7 on perfect competition. So, last week we learned about all those cost functions, and I told you that they were going to help us understand different kinds of competition. That's true. It is true. This week we're going to keep using it. We're going to use the same cost functions, although we're going to focus mostly on the average graph where you have that marginal cost curve, the average total cost curve, maybe the average variable cost curve. That one's optional. But we're going to deal a lot with that graph, with the average curves and the marginal curve. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the perspective of one firm, one business with that cost structure. And then we're going to superimpose a price on it. Like, hey, we can make all this stuff. Here's the cost. We know the average total cost for every quantity we could choose. And then we're going to try to sell it in a competitive market, like supply and demand. Okay, supply and demand, no one has any control over price. It just happens. So the supply and the demand curves meet. They choose a price, and the price that comes out of that X gets superimposed onto every firm's cost curves. So same market, but now instead of looking at the overall big picture, we're looking at one firm inside of it. One of the many firms who can't control the price. And so the price is going to show as just this horizontal bar that's just fixed and they can't change it. And then we have to figure out what they're going to do to maximize their profit. Now, there's a lot of technical videos that are going to walk you through the math of it. Let me just kind of high level it. This probably won't be a super long video. The gist with profit maximization is you want as much profit as possible. Go figure. When I say profit, I'm referring to total revenue minus total costs. That's all the money you bring in minus the money it costs to earn it is all the money you just earned for fun or for work. Now, we learned in the beginning about the marginal principle that in order to choose a question of quantity, you decided the margin. Okay, and I said as long as the additional benefits are greater than the additional costs, you should do the thing. Well, we're going to look at profit maximizing from that perspective because really our business doesn't have very many choices here. In perfect competition, they're selling the same good as everyone else. Okay, I can't say, oh, hey, my burgers have this special ingredient yours don't have, because no, we're all selling the same good. If you want to get into product differentiation where you can separate, that's fine. We can model that. We're just not gonna in this class because it gets mathier. All right. It's totally a thing we can do. And we will do it in intermediate micro, just not right now. For right now, we're all selling the same product. If we're selling the same product and we cannot control price, there's really not many business decisions left for us. Just how much do we make? By the way, I'm including the customer experience in the product. So don't be like, we're going to make our people smile more. That's part of it. Identical product. So all we can do is choose quantity. How many? And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at this from the rational optimization approach where we look at the margin. If I want to talk about selling cups of coffee, I'll make one cup. And if the money coming in from it was more than the cost of making it, I'll make another one. And if the money coming in from it's more than the cost of making it, I'll make another one. I'm going to compare these money comings in per new cup, which is marginal revenue. And I'm going to compare it to the marginal cost, the additional cost from making each new cup. Now in this chapter, chapter 7 only, marginal revenue is the same as price. In chapter 8, it'll be different. Okay, so keep that in mind. But we're going to increase production as long as the marginal revenues, the money coming in for the next sale, is greater than or equal to the marginal cost, or the money going out for the next sale. And as long as the money coming in is greater than the money going out, we're making money and we want to keep doing that. And so we're going to increase production all the way until we've gotten every good transaction where revenues are greater than cost, marginal revenues are greater than marginal costs. And we stop when they break even. The last cup sold won't actually make you any money. Marginal revenue should equal marginal cost. After that, it would cost you more to make them than you would get for selling them at the market price. How could that ever be? Well, imagine some like future, like down the line for my coffee maker, all my workers have already worked full time. And in order for them to work another hour, I have to pay them time and a half. My labor costs are through the roof. And maybe the extra cup that they're going to make doesn't justify the wage I have to pay them to do it. Or conversely, or not conversely. Additionally, what about keeping your store open all night? Why don't all stores stay open 24 hours? Well, most stores, the extra sales they would get in the dead of night don't match the cost it would take to keep them open. There'll be a couple open because, there's always some people who are hungry or something. But for the most part, most places are like, nah, not worth it. The additional cost of staying open all night would outweigh the additional revenues from being open all night because most people are asleep all night. Anyway, let's get to coffee real quick. So, perfect competition. Perfect competition assumes that there's no barriers to entry, right? You can come and you can go. You can start businesses and shut them down with as little cost as possible. Now, most businesses, you don't get a perfect zero cost to entry, but you can get pretty low costs. For instance, where I'm from, there was this big thing with these little, you've probably seen them, little coffee shops that are usually like in the driveway, in the parking lot of some larger business. Okay, you know the type? I know you've seen them around where you live too. So let's take a look at these and figure out why I consider these to be fairly competitive. The cost on them is pretty minor as far as starting a business goes. You rent out a chunk of the parking lot for a certain number of months, and then you pay a couple $1,000s to put up some walls and an AC unit and a coffee maker, and you're in business. As far as starting a business, that's pretty low entry cost as far as I'm concerned. So when I was younger, probably a little younger than you, those things got really popular in my hometown. It was like kind of like a new thing that just hit, and we're like, well, that's cool. And the first guy, he started one, and then he started a couple of them, and pretty soon he was making a ton of money doing his job, just running these little coffee stands. But then other people saw him making all this money and saw cars lined up at these coffee shops and realized, hey, I can do that too. And so other people started opening them. And pretty soon it seemed like there was a coffee shop like at every corner. And in one case, there were like 3 at a 4-way intersection. It's pretty crazy. But then eventually there ended up not being as many. There's still a lot, but not as many as at that peak. So I want to use what we're going to learn in this chapter to explain it. I'm going to use it without using a lot of the hardcore terminology. But think about this story when you're learning about how this all works in the long run. Okay, free entry and exit. Anyone who can start a business can. So this guy starts and he makes a ton of money. We'd call it economic profit. Okay, it's the thing. Makes a ton of money. And that economic profit invites other people to maybe quit their jobs and try to copy him. To be like, whoa, that coffee shop's super successful. Let me see if I can do that. And then I'll start my own business. And as people start entering that coffee market, the demand gets more spread out. Each firm selling less and less. Okay. So let's think. Yeah, there's a demand for coffee. One demand curve. The supply starts rising. What's that do to price? Hopefully you got that decreases price, which to each firm, if you draw it on your graph, decreases the quantity that they can make and to maximize their profit. And it's going to decrease their profits as well. So as all these competitors start flooding the market, everyone's profits goes down until eventually is down enough that some people are like losing money and leave the market. And as they leave the market, profits start to stabilize. So I think that tells the coffee story. Now, what's the end result of perfect competition in the long run? The end result is going to be zero economic profit. Okay, the people in business are going to make enough money that they're content. There's no need for them to get a new job because they're making just as much in this job as they would anywhere else. But they're also not making so much money that they invite new people. Right? No one looks at them and says, "Whoa, dude, I should quit my job and do that," because it won't actually help you at all. And so that's the end result of perfect competition, is a zero economic profit. Now, keep in mind, accounting profit's different from economic profit. There's a video about that, but it's really important. Zero profit's not a terrible thing in economics because we measure it differently than accountants do. But yeah, guys, I think that covers most of the perfect competition stuff. Free entry and exit makes it really hard to make money and keep making money. I should say, actually, one more thought. So this is sort of like outside of the book. This zero profit condition means nobody wants to be stuck in perfect competition. Right? So you might be thinking this is like a really boring model. Like, why don't we like get a different product or something? Exactly. If everyone sells the same good in a market with free entry and exit, eventually there's going to be zero economic profit from it. So firms will try to escape perfect competition. Firms will try to find ways to get away from it. They'll be like, "Hey, let me make my burgers square, Wendy's. Now my burger's different from everyone else's." Or whatever it may be. They're going to find some way to say, "Look, mine's different. You can pay me a little extra for it." That's a thing. Businesses do that. This model doesn't say they don't. It just says what happens if they don't. If you can differentiate your product, we might need a better model to describe what's happening to you. But if there's free entry and exit, and you can't prevent people from copying you, the end result will be that you don't make any long-term money. Other ways that firms try to avoid competition: if you go back to when we were meddling in markets with price floors, price ceilings, and quotas, firms will often ask the government for regulation in their market in some way. Not blanket regulation, but the kind that helps them. I think I mentioned, I forget if it was this class or the other class, but taxi cab companies are one of the loudest sectors who are interested in regulating Lyft and Uber. Why? Because it stops a lot of entry in their market. That's a thing. It's a thing that they don't want. I read a news article a while back about a lady who owned a hair salon as a cosmetologist, like all the chemicals and dyeing and everything else. And a different lady had opened up a business a block away or whatever, doing hair braiding. Now, I don't mean like generic hair braiding. I mean like the super intricate stuff where you can pay a lot of money and sit there for hours while they braid all your hair super awesomely. Anyway, that's a totally different business from cosmetology. There's no bleaching, there's no chemicals, there's no anything. But this cosmetologist was saying that the hair braider should be subject to the same regulations and the same licensing requirements, which involved a bunch of months of extra schooling and all this other stuff. The reason cosmetologists have all that is because we don't want them to burn our hair into baldness, right? It's like a safety thing. But here we had an existing business who didn't like new competition squeezing in on the market, even if it's not very direct competition. But what was the response? Regulate them out of existence if we can. So there's a lot we can say about firms trying to escape competitive pressures. This chapter does not depict that. This chapter just says what happens if you don't escape competitive pressures. Next chapter, we're going to go to the opposite end. What if you somehow become the king or queen of your market and you're the only firm there? We'll find out more then. Peace out, guys. I hope this helps. Enjoy the next videos. Good luck.